Good morning, friends, and welcome to Temple Buddhist Center's Sunday Meditation Service. My name is Victor, and I'm honored to be of service this morning. We hope that our service finds you happy and healthy, but please know that if you are struggling in any way, we hope that our service this morning can be a source of refuge for you as we open our hearts to you and your loved ones. We are excited to be able to celebrate our services again in person, and we want to do so as safely as possible. Masks are still required in Jackson County and for another month or two, I believe. So we appreciate very much your part in helping to keep our whole Sangha safe and healthy. So let's begin this morning with a few conscious breaths. A conscious breath is where we seal the mouth, breathe deeply through the nose, hold that breath for a few moments, and then release slowly so that the exhale is longer than the inhale. Let's begin. Holding that breath for just a moment, feeling the fullness of the lungs, and then releasing slowly in sort of a metered fashion. And as you release, just bringing your awareness to the body, to the form. What is most alive in the form right now? What's most present in this body right now? And a second conscious breath together. Holding for a moment, making sure the shoulders are relaxed. And as you release, giving yourself permission to unplug from that energy of going and doing, efforting, striving, accomplishing. There's nothing good, bad, right, or wrong about being plugged into that energy, but when we're plugged into it, all of our waking hours, it can be very fatiguing. And it's important to bring a sense of balance into our lives as we cultivate the energy of just being. That energy that requires nothing of us. It is simply the aliveness of this moment, of this form. And a third conscious breath together. Holding for a moment. And releasing slowly. And as you release, allowing into your awareness the present moment. There is the present moment, and then there's everything else. And so here at Temple Buddhist Center, we like to begin our services with a little bit of chanting. Chanting is an integral part of every tradition. Chanting is not about being a singer, it's about having a voice. Chanting is about a deeply devotional practice of expressing what is most sacred within you, expressing that outward to the world and sharing it with the universe. Our chant today is Om Vajrapani Hum, Om Vajrapani Hum. You'll recognize the term Om, very common in many yogic practices. It is the Sanskrit term for the sound of the universe, reminding each one of us that we are a beautiful note in a grand cosmic symphony forever playing. Vajrapani honors that energy of the enlightened mind, that vast, boundless energy that never runs out and is open and free to share with all beings. And in Sanskrit, Hum or Hung simply means I am that. So I'm going to invite Rochelle to tone us in as we take a conscious breath. Together. Om Vajrapani Hum. 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 Once more. Om Vajrapani Hum. And so once again, welcome to all of our friends and family and Sangha members joining us here live, present at the temple, and also a big heartfelt welcome to everyone joining us online. As I like to tease, Temple Buddhist Center has become not only international, but interspecies, as many folks send in pictures of their kitties and their dogs that are sitting glued to the computer screen around Temple Buddhist Center services. I don't know what it is, but also a quick reminder that we have blankets available at the back by the altar. There are cushions up front. Space is limited, so get yours quickly. And also there are cough drops and tissues as well as listening devices on the altar at the back. So if any of that can be useful to you, then by all means, please take advantage of that. Here at Temple Buddhist Center, we practice Western Buddhism. Western Buddhism is a blend of Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. And this new and exciting form of spirituality is dynamic, it's changing, it's transforming, and it's growing with us. It is active, it is inclusive, and it focuses on core Buddhist insights as well as mindfulness, meditation, and their practical applications in our daily lives. Our goal here is not to get everyone to agree on a specific lineage or philosophy or sect of Buddhism, but rather it is on a shared experience of mindfulness, oneness, and love. Whether we are chanting together, spending time in noble silence, or sharing from the heart, we respect that you will participate at a level that is comfortable for you. We take refuge in the three jewels of Buddhism and acknowledge these core values as expressions of the awakened mind, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We value awareness of our Buddha nature, as well as the Buddha nature of all beings, bringing a fresh, new perspective to each and every precious moment. And the second jewel, the Dharma, the truth teachings that release us from fear and delusion and help us to realize the true nature of who we are. And finally, Sangha, our spiritual community, where we come together to practice the teachings, to help each other along every step of the path. And so at this time, let us go ahead and silence any cell phones or electronic devices as we prepare for a time in meditation. We're going to begin with the prayer of refuge, which we will recite 3 times for the 3 jewels. Together, in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. And so as we prepare now for a time in meditation, if you have an extensive practice, then we invite you to practice in a way that is fitting for you this morning. If, however, you are new to meditation, then we are going to begin with a dedication of intention. We will awaken the bell 3 times for the 3 jewels. And then our TBC teacher, Mr. Robert Brumet, will lead us this morning in a brief guided meditation that is designed to assist you in moving into the stillness. We will spend approximately 10 to 12 minutes this morning in noble silence, connecting with each other in consciousness. And so let us begin with a conscious breath. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness, transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow, and realize the true nature of who they are.
As we listen to the sound of the bell receding into the silence, we allow the mind to also recede into the silence. With each breath we take, the mind settles in, the heart opens, we become more connected We're aware of the body. Bringing attention to the body, to the life in the body. And to the breath that sustains the life in the body. Breath by breath, we become quiet, alert, and perfectly still. Breath by breath, we become aware of the breath and the body. Noticing the rhythm, the feel of the breath. Sensing the body as the body breathes. Breathing in and breathing out. Anytime our attention gets lost in thought, we simply come back to the breath. We sense the body. We continue the practice of being present. Right here, right now, to this breath, to this precious body, in this precious moment. As we continue to notice the breath, feel the sensations in the body, I invite you to also become aware of hearing. Becoming aware of the sounds, the space around you. Hearing and sensing the body at the same time. Relating to the outside world and still retaining awareness of your body is a very powerful practice. In a few moments, you will hear the sound of the bell once again. And as you hear that, I invite you to slowly, gently open your eyes and practice seeing as well as hearing, staying connected in awareness with your body, sensing the body, seeing and hearing, being fully present to your environment, being fully present to yourself. When the bell rings, gently open your eyes. Continue awareness of the body. Okay, I invite you to continue that practice as you listen to the Dharma talk. I invite you to listen to it not only with the mind and the ears, but with the body and the heart as well. Today I want to talk about something called the sacred wound. And I think this is relevant because virtually everyone, every human being has been wounded in some way. Physically, perhaps. Psychologically, very likely. Spiritually, in our culture, I would say that's almost for sure. So what is a sacred wound? What makes it different than any other wound? Sacred wound is one in which it serves as a vehicle to take us home, to bring us home to our true self, to our true nature, to our Buddha nature, to what we really are. It's a wound that, in a sense, cracks open the false self and allows us to experience what's underneath and behind the persona through which we live most of the time. Whether or not a wound is sacred does not really depend upon the nature of the woundedness, but it's more a matter of how we relate to it, how we approach it, our attitude toward it. So that's what I want to talk about today, is how to make any and every wound sacred. How to use our woundedness to experience more fully, more deeply, and to reveal more abundantly our true nature, and to live from that place. So, as you perhaps think about or recall some aspect of being wounded, if you can't think of anything, don't worry about it. It will reveal itself if you're ready for it. It's not something we need to dig up or go searching for, but simply be open to looking at it. So being willing to look at it and to recognize that this is an opportunity to awaken. This is a very different attitude than we typically take in our culture with any kind of wound, particularly physical wounds. You know, I'm wounded, fix it, so I can get on with my life. We tend to take that approach too towards psychological wounds, something that gets in the way of how I, quote, should be. The attitude here is that the wound itself is the journey, is the practice, is the path. So what we thought was in the way, we realize is the way. It's not an obstacle, but it's actually potentially a doorway, a portal. So recognizing the wound and being willing to just stay open to it and to not run away from it, to not deny it. Certainly to get help is needed, but as we get help, we don't see that help as, patching a flat tire or fixing our car if it's broken in some way. But rather, it's a matter of taking care of one level so we can function. It's a way of helping us to create a foundation from which we can begin to do the deeper work. So I'm not saying, and will probably never say, don't get help as needed, physical, psychological, spiritual, but don't see the physician or therapist as a savior, and don't see the absence of a symptom as necessarily being the full healing. Sometimes I like to make the distinction between a cure and a healing. A cure is when we put the Band-Aid on and the skin heals. But a healing is when we are healed not only physically, but also psychologically and spiritually. But all too often we say, I'm not bleeding, I'm not hurting. Whatever it is, the pain has gone away, and then we get lost in the trance of our everyday life once again. So what appears to be a curse may be a blessing. And what may seem to interrupt our life and get in the way of our life, one of those things we say, if it weren't for this or if it weren't for that, then I'd be happy, or then I could get on with things. And usually getting on with things means going back into the overdrive of the ego. And the wound is an opportunity to say, hey, that's not what you're here for. This is not who you are. This is not what you're about. So recognizing and being open. Forgiveness is important too in the process. Oftentimes our woundedness was seemingly perpetrated upon us by another person. Or sometimes we may feel angry at our body for not being there as we want it to be. For those of us that are getting older, as we all are, we begin to notice that the body is not quite as responsive as it used to be. And sometimes it's easy to get angry and particularly if we feel pain. When we feel pain in the body, we tend to see the body as the enemy. So forgiving the body, forgiving any perpetrator that may have been involved in our woundedness. Whatever it is, we need to forgive. Forgiving ourselves, oftentimes, some of us blame ourselves if we are injured or hurt. And particularly, this is very common with children that are abused. They tend to blame themselves. And it's a pattern that we may take on into adulthood. So forgiveness. Forgiveness simply means letting the past be the past. Simply means dropping the story around what happened. What happened, you see. For me, the Dalai Lama is a beautiful example of forgiveness when he talks about my friends, the enemy, the Chinese he's referring to. He does not deny the fact that the Chinese have done horrific things to his people, to his culture, and he does not deny the facts of that. And yet at the same time, he does not talk about blame. He does not talk about self-pity. He simply acknowledges this is what happened. Sometimes he'll even say, let's now pray for the Chinese, you see. So forgiveness doesn't mean that we pretend nothing happened. It doesn't mean we don't hold people accountable if necessary, but it means we let go of the past in terms of trying to make it different. What's that saying that says, forgiveness is giving up all hope for a better past. So the past was the past, and here we are now. So staying present then in the moment. And it's important to recognize that the wound may have happened 30 or 40 years ago, or it may have happened yesterday, but the only time we can heal, the only time we can make the wound sacred is in this present moment, right here and right now. So sometimes I'll hear people say, well, why are we digging up the past? We're not digging up anything. If we're wounded, it's with us right here and right now, whether it happened, whether it began 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, or whether it was yesterday. It doesn't make any difference. The fact is, in this moment, that wound is here with us. And how we use that wound is up to us. There's a quote from a book that I still love and think a lot about. It goes way back into the 70s. It's a book titled Illusions. Perhaps some of you are familiar with it. It's got such good quotes in it. That's one reason I like it. And here's one of my favorite. It says, "There is no such thing as a problem. There's no such thing as a problem without a gift for you in its hands. You seek problems because you need their gifts." Okay. So the soul seeks the problem because it needs the gift. The mind, the body may not recognize that. It may not recognize what's really going on. The ego simply wants to continue the track that it's been on and to once again get on with my life. And my life meaning my routine. The quotidian, as it's sometimes called, the daily routine of our everyday life. And that's a wonderful trance we can fall into. Sunday we watch football. Monday I go to work, get dressed, do. And so it's like we get lost in all our doing, but that becomes very familiar. And even though we may be busier or things may be challenging, it can be a comfortable trance, even if it's not always easy. Many of our wounds, if not most of them, involve a feeling of being betrayed, a sense of betrayal. We may feel like we've been betrayed by another person. Our wound may be the result of, a betrayal by a spouse or a lover or a close friend or a business partner. Could be a betrayal by an organization, a church, a religious group, a business that we work for, maybe the government. I've talked to many veterans, particularly Vietnam veterans, because that's the era in which I grew up, that felt very betrayed by their country. They've given everything, maybe even an arm and a leg, quite literally, and they feel like the government lied to them or tricked them or something like that. So oftentimes in our woundedness, there's a sense of betrayal. Sometimes we may even feel betrayed by God. We feel like we've done everything we could, everything we should, according to what we believe about God or about religion or about morality, and somehow it doesn't work. Why do bad things happen to good people? There's even a book written by that title. That's a question that's been around for a long, long time. Why do good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people, you say? So life doesn't seem fair in that regard. And so we may feel betrayed and we may feel very angry. So, betrayal is a disillusionment. And disillusionment is painful. But if we think about the word disillusionment, what does that mean? Dis means no longer illusioned, right? So we are broken away from our illusionment. Disillusionment means I'm no longer in the trance and no longer under the spell that I was once under. and it can feel painful, you say. And once again, oftentimes I'll talk with people, middle-aged people or older people that, I've worked all my life, I've done everything I was supposed to do, and bam, I get cancer, or, maybe even if they're successful, if we're totally successful, we have everything we want. And this is not what I want. We may feel disillusioned because we've climbed the ladder, as they say, only to find that we put it against the wrong wall. We don't know what. I've done everything that I was told would make me happy. Now I'm not happy anymore. What's going on? So disillusionment is a big piece of it. We feel betrayed. So it's very important to recognize that the sense of betrayal means that we have put faith in something that wasn't worthy of our faith. And I'm not talking about any specific people or any specific organizations. I'm talking about any time we put the source of our happiness, when we see the source of our well-being in another person or anything in the world. That's what in the Christian Gospels, Jesus talked about building your house on sand. And so when we build our house on sand, it means that we're building our life on something that's not permanent. Well, what is permanent, you say? What's permanent is the reality of who we are. You are permanent. Your body's not permanent. Your mind's not permanent. Your personality's not permanent. But you are permanent, whatever you are. And there's no words for that. There's no description of that. Whether we call it pure awareness, Buddha nature, or whatever we call it, that's what you really are. That's your true nature. And that is permanent. So I'd like to close with a story about one individual that experienced discovering the sacred wound. This is a story told by Dr. Rachel Naomi Raymond. And again, she's written many books. You may be familiar with her work. And she's a psychiatrist, and she worked a lot with patients who had been wounded in many ways. And she says his leg was removed at the hip to save his life. He was 24 years old when I started working with him. And he was a very angry young man with a lot of bitterness. He felt a deep sense of injustice and a very deep hatred for all well people, because it seemed to him unfair that he had suffered this terrible loss so early in his life. He had bone cancer. They had to remove his one leg as a result. I worked with this man through his grief and rage and pain, using painting, imagery, and deep psychotherapy. After working with him for more than 2 years, there came a profound shift. He began coming out of himself. Later, he started to visit other people who had suffered severe physical losses. And he would tell me those wonderful stories about his visits. Once he visited a young woman who was almost his own age. It was a hot day in Palo Alto, and he was in his running shorts, so his artificial leg showed when he came into her hospital room. The woman was so depressed about the loss of her breast that she wouldn't even look at him, wouldn't pay any attention to him. The nurses had left her radio playing, probably in order to cheer her up. So desperate to get her attention, he unstrapped his leg, began dancing around the room on one leg, snapping his fingers to the tone of the music. She looked at him in amazement, and finally she burst out laughing and said, "Man, if you can dance, then I can sing." It was a year following this that we sat down to review our work together. He talked about what was significant to him, and then I shared what was significant in our own process. As we were reviewing 2 years of work, I opened his file and there discovered several drawings he had made early on, and I handed them to him. He looked at them and he said, "Oh, look at this one." I had suggested that he draw a picture of his body. He had drawn a picture of a vase, and running through the vase was a deep black crack. This was the image of his body, and he had taken a black crayon and had drawn that crack over and over again. He was grinding his teeth with rage at the time. It was very, very painful because it seemed to him that this vase would never function as a vase again. Now, several years later, he came to this picture and looked at it, and he said, "Oh, wait a minute. This one isn't finished." And I said, extending the box of crayons, "Why don't you finish it?" He picked up a yellow crayon, putting his finger on the crack, said, "You see here where it's broken? This is where the light comes through." And with the yellow crayon, he drew light streaming through the crack in his body. So our place of brokenness can be the place where we open to the inner light. That's ultimately the message I'd like to leave with you this morning. So thank you for sharing your Dharma practice with us. Thank you for your listening.
So let's just take a moment to embody the teachings. Dharma talks can be like a warm summer rain. The drops that fall on you are for you, and the drops that fall elsewhere are for someone else. It's important to sometimes just feel the teachings as opposed to getting up into the thinking mind and trying to analyze and figure out and apply. So we just take a moment to feel them. And so at this time, if you need to shift your posture or adjust a little bit as we move into loving kindness practice. And so we'll begin with a conscious breath. And as we release, I invite you to bring to mind the image of you, a full body image of the form that has been given your name and that has accrued the many experiences over the years. And holding this image in your mind's eye, recite silently to yourself these words of metta, or loving kindness practice. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. And may I be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a friend of yours. And holding this full body image of your friend in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts and send to them loving kindness. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a difficult person in your life or a challenging person, like perhaps a boss or a coworker, neighbor, classmate, or a political figure. And holding this image in your mind's eye, let us send to them metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as we release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of the world, all the plants and the flowers and the trees, animals of the land, the sea, the sky, and all sentient beings. Holding this image in your mind's eye, let us send to them all metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as we release that sentiment into the universe, in the true spirit of dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, temple services here are given freely. In the same way, if you choose to give, please give with a generous heart, which means not in return for anything that you have received today, but rather so that those who may be seeking refuge may find it here, in this temple, with these teachings, with these teachers, and with this Sangha. And we take a moment to let our hearts fill with gratitude for our ambassadors, those folks who have committed themselves to regular monthly electronic giving. It's not about the amount, it's just that the regular monthly giving helps us set a budget here at TBC. If you would like to become an ambassador, simply stop by our website, templebuddhistcenter.com, and click on the Love Offering button. Also, gratitude in our hearts for all of our wonderful volunteers, those folks who help us each and every day with our various classes and programs, our electronic and audio-visual needs, our musical needs. Gratitude in our hearts for Rochelle. Thank you, Rochelle, for your wonderful music. Gratitude for our teachers. Robert Brumet, thank you so much for your sharing your wonderful knowledge of the Dharma and the practice and your gigantic heart of service. So we are very blessed to have you as a part of our Sangha. And gratitude to all of our folks joining us from around the world. Thank you to everyone at home, and thank you to each and every one of you for sharing your heart, your presence, your practice with us here at Temple Buddhist Center. We are the better for it. And so as we take time now to recite our bodhicitta dedication, as we move to formally ending our time together this morning, we'll recite this out loud together. Let's begin. May the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably, until all are illumined and awakened. And with our hands together in front of our hearts, as we go forth from this place, may we enter each moment in innocence, guided by the wisdom of our hearts. And as we open our hands, open our eyes, shine our light into the world. Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have just a moment, I have a few quick announcements. We have some wonderful programs that are springing up for the fall. We have the yoga and 12-step recovery, which is every Wednesday now at 4:30 till 5:45. And this is a special kind of yoga for folks experiencing a recovery. Also, the first Sunday of every month is our Helping Hands Sunday. There will be these little blue bags that will be set out in the lobby. We encourage each family to take preferably one right now. And these are something that you can give to anyone that you might see along your way that could be experiencing homelessness. And so in this little baggie are all kinds of things, sometimes gloves and socks and tissues and granola and bottles of water. So it gives you something to be able to share with folks that might be experiencing homelessness. Don't forget our post-service discussion group is at 10:15, just to the left in the hallway down at the end of the hall. Recovery Dharma is every Thursday night at 7, and there's also Buddhism and 12-step recovery Sundays at 12:30. And we had a wonderful contributor or a person who donated a whole box of really amazing books, many of them from Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh from the Plum Village tradition, as well as a whole bunch of books from Ken Wilber and others. So our lending library is burgeoning. It's filled up. So please come and see if there might be some nugget or jewel of truth that you could take home with you and share the Dharma with you and your loved ones as well. And so I believe that was everything. Oh, I'm sorry, I did have one other announcement. We are starting a Basics of Meditation class. Nicoya is kicking that off, and that starts November 3rd and is November 10th. And so this is going to be an exploration of many different meditation techniques in how to deepen one's practice and basically utilizing this tool of meditation. So also Tai Chi Cha, contemplative movement is coming up. So lots of great things are happening this fall. Please check our website or our Facebook page for that. And again, thank you everyone. And as you go into your day, peace and blessings.